Sound argumentative, but then tell me buying Russian gas is not funding the war? Oil coming to India, which funds, but it's not gas coming to Europe, which funds? I mean, look, somewhere, I mean, let's be...
If you look at the major buyers of oil and gas from Russia, I think you'd find most of them are in Europe.
I think a lot of critics would ask you the increase in your oil imports that have happened between 2021 and 2022. It's 9 times higher as of this month. You have been questioned in terms of that increased oil import from Russia, $95 a barrel for Russian oil, 119 approximately for Brent crude. Is that profiteering? Is that looking out for your own interest? What does that really mean for foreign policy in India? And how do you tie non-alignment with 9 times more oil imports out of Russia? How do you make the two meet?
Well, look, first of all, I don't see a non-alignment oil connection at all. I mean, today Europe is buying oil. Europe is buying gas. I just read the new package of sanctions. Now, the package is designed in a way in which consideration has been given to the welfare of the population. So, pipelines have a certain carve-out. And timelines have been given. It's not like tomorrow morning everything's going to be cut off. So, people need to understand, if you can be considerate of yourself, surely you can be considerate of other people. So, if Europe says, look, we have to manage it in a way in which its impact on my economy is not traumatic. That freedom or that choice should exist for other people as well. Now, in terms of our oil purchases, we don't send people out there saying, go buy Russian oil. We send people out there saying, go buy oil. Now, you buy the best oil you can in the market. So I don't think I would attach a political messaging to that. I would also...
How do you not conflate the two? I mean, I know the Indian-Russian relationship is strong, but you also have issues with China. How do you then sit back and define Indian foreign policy at this point where the West seems to be quite vociferous in trying to curtail funding for the war in Ukraine, whereas by purchasing this oil for national interest, India is being asked, are you funding this war?
So, look, I mean, I don't want to sound argumentative, but then tell me buying Russian gas is not funding the war? I mean, why is it's only Indian money and oil coming to India which funds, but it's not gas coming to Europe which funds? I mean, look, somewhere, I mean, let's be a little even-handed out here. And even this, look, the whole narrative that it's gone up 9 times. I mean, it's gone up 9 times from a very low base. And it was a very low base because at that time the markets were more open. Why if countries in Europe and the West and the United States are so concerned, why don't they allow Iranian oil to come into the market? Why don't they allow Venezuelan oil to come into the market? I mean, they've squeezed every other source of oil we have. And then say, okay, guys, you must not go into the market and get the best deal for your people. I don't think that's a very fair approach.
Foreign Secretary obviously mentioned reducing reliance on Russian oil and gas. I mean, what do you make of the news that India is seeking to buy huge amounts of Russian oil at a very steep discount? You must be quite disappointed that something that goes so contrary to your sanctions program.
Well, I've outlined the UK's approach to sanctions and the fact that we are ending our dependence on Russian oil by the end of this year, but we're also looking to achieve a timetable with the G7. We've got a meeting of the G7 later this week. I think it's very important, though, that we respect other countries' decisions about the issues that they face. India is a sovereign nation. I'm not going to tell India what to do. What I've said is, as a member of the UK government that has signed up to the Budapest Memorandum, I feel a strong responsibility on behalf of the United Kingdom to take all the action we can to support the people of Ukraine. But that is not the same as going around telling other countries what to do.
Final question.
May I just add a word there?
Of course.
It's interesting because we've seen for some time what looks almost like a campaign on this issue. Now, I was just reading a report today that in the month of March, Europe has bought, I think, 15% more oil and gas from Russia than it did the month before. If you look at the major buyers of oil and gas from Russia, I think you'd find most of them are in Europe. We ourselves get the bulk of our energy supplies from the Middle East, about 7.5%, 8% of our oil from the US. In the past, maybe less than 1% from Russia. When oil prices go up, I think it's natural for countries to go out into the market and look for what are good deals for their people. But I am pretty sure if we wait 2 or 3 months and actually look at who are the big buyers of Russian gas and oil, I suspect the list won't be very different from what it used to be, and I suspect we won't be in the top 10 on that list.
Foreign Secretary.
I think there's also a broader point here, which is, I've said this about Europe, that over a number of years, Europe prioritised cheap gas, cheap goods over looking at our long-term security. And we didn't do enough when Putin invaded Crimea. We didn't do enough to involve ourselves in the Minsk agreements. And we are now seeing the result of that. And necessarily, dependency on energy or dependency on technology takes time to address. So we're now removing Huawei from UK telecoms networks, but that takes time. We're reducing and eliminating our dependence on Russian oil and gas, and that takes time. And that is also true of other countries. And the important thing for me is that the G7 set a timetable to end that dependency and send a strong signal in the market. But to say that years of policy that we have just been through, you can suddenly change it overnight. I mean, there have been some pretty remarkable changes. Germany has changed its entire energy and defence policy as a result of the invasion of Ukraine. And we need to keep doing that. I think the biggest danger at the moment is that we let our foot off the gas on sanctions, and we can't do that. We need to continue to put the pressure on Putin. We need to continue to supply the weapons into Ukraine. And we need to make absolutely sure that we don't have a rerun of Minsk, that we make sure that the sanctions are kept on, even in the event of a ceasefire, even in the event of a withdrawal of troops, because it's only when we get lasting peace that this situation will finally have been